How y'all doing today? Good. So this is my first time here. Usually it's my boss or the national sales manager. My name's Nate Watts. I'm the quality control manager. I'm also the guy that gets to test and break and try new stuff, which
Nate gets to have all the fun. He gets to shoot arrows into concrete walls, brick walls, wood. Yeah, he gets to have all the fun. I only get to shoot the X's. That's it.
Well, that's not true. You did get to come play.
We did get to do some fun stuff.
And we shot some fun stuff. Yeah. And some of that content is kind of being trickle released.
Yeah.
But Dave came out to our facility and we had a great couple days. Shot a lot of cool stuff. Did some neat trick shots. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. But doing the stuff I get to do, I take a lot of feedback from Dave and his recommendations and try new stuff or look at different things that I hadn't thought about looking at before. So working with Dave is great because he does provide that feedback and insight that I don't see because I'm not a professional shooter. And he's got, Dave's been doing this for a long time and he's well respected and his input means a lot. So, yeah.
Yeah, this is my 30th year competing full time. And I'm 47 years old. So I started competing professionally when I graduated from high school at 17 years old. So yeah, it's been a long time. Yeah.
So what arrow are you shooting this year?
Well, it kind of depends. And one thing that I've found that works really well for me is Victory is their entire range of products. It's almost a bit of a double-edged sword because we have so many products, but the problem is we have so many products. As an example, when I was on a quest to find the perfect outdoor field and target arrow for myself, I tried 6 different arrow shafts, not just spines within one shaft. And that's kind of one thing that sets us apart from a lot of other carbon arrow shaft manufacturers is we have technology built into our arrow shafts. Because just because something's carbon doesn't mean all carbon's the same. It's just like blends of metal and alloys. There's so many different variations on what makes up the carbon, the direction of the weave, etc. So for outdoors, my choice actually ended up being an arrow that wasn't even listed as a target arrow. It was more or less specified as a hunting arrow, but it was the arrow that performed the best out of everything. And that was because of the particular technology that was used in that arrow that wasn't used in other arrows, which has kind of inspired us to look at how that arrow is put together and why it performs so well. And then now it's been accepted across the range as a target shaft for outdoors.
And that's the 3K, our 3K weave at a 45 on his VAP TK.
Does everybody know what that means, the 45-degree weave and 90-degree weave? So if you were to look at the arrow, and the arrow's made up of fibers, essentially cloth. And a 90-degree weave, those fibers intersect each other like that.
So they
45-degree weave, they interface each other like that. So when you alter the angle of that weave, you alter the structural integrity all the way around the shaft. So the more angles you can get in there, the more consistent spine around the shaft or 360 spine you have. So knock indexing doesn't vary your impact at the target or when you paper a bare shaft tube.
And shaft recovery on shot speeds up as well when you run that weave on the outside of that shaft.
So when the arrow flexes under load as it comes out of the bow, what Nate's talking about is its speed to return back to zero. How fast the arrow stabilizes on its own before any of your tuning, your arrow rest placement, stuff like that, cam shimming, anything the bow does. It provides an arrow that responds and reacts back to zero very quickly to be very stable very, very soon, thus be more accurate.
So like our 3K weave, those arrows compared to our unidirectional come in about a grain per inch heavier, but the impact point is almost identical because that arrow is not wasting energy on recovery. It turns it into a flatter shooting arrow because it does recover quickly.
Because if an arrow takes a long time for it to recover as it goes down range, every time that arrow turns off of its axis, drag is put on it by the air it's moving through. So it may leave the bow faster, but its decay of downrange velocity is greater.
Yeah, so we had 3K at 45, 3K at 90.
Yep.
So we've got a new arrow for 2025. It is set up as a hunting arrow, but I built a set to shoot. Our target components do fit it, and that's going to be the new HLR. So 204 diameter.
And 204 is the inside diameter,
Inside
right?
diameter, yeah.
So very suitable for 3D and field, as well as 50 meters. Exterior diameter on that?
Don't know it off the top of my head.
235 thousandths or so?
Yeah. Like 235, 240, depending on the spine. So 200, 250, 300, 354, and then working on a 5. Yeah. So large selection of spines there. The grain weight is going to kind of fall between our standard 204 diameter and our 3D-HV. So 3D-HV is a very fast, light-walled arrow, but this is going to be about a grain per inch heavier per spine than that arrow right there.
Better performance, better durability.
And it's got a smaller mesh weave on this. So it's got a 1.5K instead of a 3K.
And what that means is basically the fibers themselves are smaller.
Yes.
So that there'll be more fibers within the weave.
Yes.
And just like bowstring, the more strands you add to the diameter and keep the same diameter, the more stable it gets.
It is. It's a very stable, durable arrow. I haven't had a chance to play a whole lot with it, but what I have, I mean, it tuned like that. Shot through, got bullet holes through paper almost immediately. Just a very easy arrow to tune, for sure.
And that, so in another piece of technology that they use at Victory is spine align on the shafts. You want to walk us through a little bit of what that is?
So some people think it's high spine. What it is, actually we're measuring the stiff axis of arrow. So every arrow that comes off the line is proof loaded, and then we verify spine, digital spine verification. So you're going to suspend this arrow at 28 inches, and a bar is going to come down and flex this, and it's going to rotate to your weak axis. All right. Once that happens, it's laser marked to the stiff axis of arrow. Now, in all the testing we found, high spine up or high spine down, the arrow reacts pretty much the same out of the bow. So as long as your stiff axis, your cock veins in line with stiff axis, the arrow is going to react the same coming out of the bow. So when it says spine aligned, that's actually the marking on your stiff axis of arrow, not the weak axis. Now, out of a compound bow, you want that stiff axis on the vertical plane, because of the way the cams are designed and the way it's released.
Either straight up or straight down. I put all mine straight up. This is just the way I do it. It's easy for me to fletch. I can put a vein right on that seam.
And the nock's going to come aligned to that spine alignment marking already anyhow. On a traditional Olympic recurve, you're going to want that axis on the horizontal plane, so left and right, just so it can flex around the riser, the way the arrow is shot. But that's something that, you know, we started. I mean, other companies had attempted to do it, but we actually labeled it for you guys, so it takes the guesswork out of it. You don't have to sit there and float an arrow.
One of the things that was frustrating for me with previous attempts to work with or shoot other carbon arrows from other manufacturers is that there were a lot of steps I would have to go through to get a set of arrows to perform at the level I needed them to. And what that led me to believe is if I have to go through all of this to get the results I need, then the average person, they're not even getting the results they deserve. If they would have to go through all these steps just to shoot the way that they shoot, they could actually be shooting better, but their arrows are lying to them. Because I would have to before, with some arrow shafts, if I shot a 29-inch arrow, I would have to find the best 29 inches of that shaft. Sometimes you would cut an inch off the back, 3 inches off the front, sometimes 3 inches off the back, 1 inch, sometimes flip them around just to find the straightest tube to start with. And then like looking down inside and trying to see where the seam is, where the carbon came together and align them all in the same place. And then shooting them all as bare shafts through paper and rotating the nocks so that they all tore the same. Or out of a shooting machine, rotating the nocks so that they all hit the same. And in some shafts in the past, I would maybe get 3 to 4 arrows out of 12 that would hit the same spot. Very frustrating.
Well, you have a whole workboard.
Yeah, I had an entire whiteboard about the size of this for dry erase, and every single arrow I shot, I had it cataloged exactly where it hit with every single nock position on all 4 axes, because I shoot 4 fletch. And I would have all that information cataloged So I would know exactly what has happened to an arrow or where an arrow had to be for it to hit with the other ones. Extremely frustrating. And kind of what I think my real role is in the archery space anymore, that I've been doing this for 30 years, is to provide information that helps you enjoy the limited amount of leisure time that you have. Because there's nothing more frustrating than you go get a brand new archery toy, set of arrows, a bow, release, new sight, new scope, whatever it is. And you know you got that one window of time on a Saturday, because Saturday afternoon you got to mow the lawn. Sunday you got to go to church. You know, you got kids got soccer, horse riding, whatever it is. You got stuff going on. You only got a limited amount of time. You've been looking forward to this all week, savoring it. Box shows up from JVD or from your dealer, like, yes, my new toys are here. And then you spend the next 6 hours completely frustrated because it doesn't work for you. So I want to work with companies, help provide technical guidance that makes products easier for people to use so they can enjoy the limited amount of leisure time they have. They don't have 8 to 10 hours a day to shoot sticks at the circle every day like I do. You got a small amount of time. So you deserve to have stuff that works for you and not have to go through a long process to make it work.
That's where, I mean, one of the benefits of Victory being Victory and being owned by Mitsubishi Chemical is the fact that we control our carbon. So when we're looking at a new setup or something like that, or Dave's got an idea or an arrow's not performing, or we're trying to get to a certain GPI or OD, ID, something like that, we've got so many different fibers that we can look at that are in our inventory that we're not having to outsource and try and
control the
design
production
something new
of the raw material for themselves.
So vertically integrated in the fact that, I mean, it's a lot of other manufacturers use Mitsubishi fiber. Our sporting goods division, it's golf shafts and arrows. That is it. And that's what, you know, we focus on the archery side. So I'm all about arrows. I'm not a golf guy, but they make some of the best golf shafts on the market as well.
Did you ever wonder why certain carbon arrows or certain aluminum carbon arrows have to be weight coated? Like this batch is a C1, this batch is a C2, this batch is C3, C4, C5, and etc. You ever wonder why that is? Because their carbon's not the same. On a C5, it took a lot more carbon to hit a 400 spine than it did on a C1. That's why the C1's lighter. It's different carbon. Quality's all over the place, but when a company's vertically integrated, control the entire process of manufacturing of raw materials and sourcing of those materials.
No, it's it's cool being here. I mean, I've heard a lot about JVD and never got to see it, and the fact that I'm here talking to you guys, I think it's pretty cool. That's all.
Well, like I said, to go back, rewind it a little bit. One of the things I like about working with Victory is there's actually technology in their carbon arrow. It's not just, here's a carbon shaft. You know, we make it in a 27, a 23, and a 166 for field target 3D. No, there's technology within it. So you can really kind of explore that and find out, like, do I need a 90-degree weave? Do I need a 45? Within the 23s, I have multiple spine choices, not just a 9.3 millimeter carbon arrow, one size fits all. No, that's not appropriate. Every bow puts energy into an arrow differently at every draw length, every draw weight, across every cam family, and from one archer to the next, depending on form, string contact, release technique,
what
etc.
release you're using, yeah.
Yeah. So one of the biggest things that makes Victory an innovator and a leader in the space is they put technology into the product. It's not just another tube.
It's archers designing arrows. It's not some engineer who doesn't shoot a bow. I mean, I'm born and raised in Wyoming, shot a bow my whole life, ended up in the military and then ended up here. So I get to do something that I grew up loving. And the fact that, you know, our general manager, Steve Greenwood, has shot a bow his whole life. Jason Bensick, the national sales manager from Idaho, shot a bow his whole life. Mike Santiago at the office, competitive shooter, recurve guy. I mean, everybody shoots a bow, so it's...
Not just everyone involved in the company participates in archery, but they have such a wide catalog of experience to draw from. Like you mentioned Mike. Mike shoots traditional bow, trad bow, That's how we ended up with one of the arrows, the VXT,
Yeah.
that we have, was through Mike's quest to find a carbon shaft that performed better in that arena. Small diameter,
Parallel front end, tapered rear end.
soft in the back end,
So
you
it
know, to
actually
be forgiven to a release, to flex around the
flexes
riser.
around the riser.
Some of those type
Yeah.
of things. So, and then on like the hardcore hunting side, you know, Steve, our CEO,
VAP SS.
yeah, he's not a target shooter at all. He's actually quite a terrible archer. I hope he sees this. You got to poke at the boss a little bit.
But he can put down some animals.
But he really, really enjoys hunting. So he's a big drive on that side of the product development. And then, you know, you have some guys that are kind of in the middle, shoot a little bit of 3D, some target, and stuff like that. So it's a broad catalog of influence to draw from when products are discussed and developed.
And like Dave said, Steve shoots a VAP SS, so we have hybrid technology, meaning that we have metal and carbon combined. So you got the VAP SS, RIP SS, and the great thing about those arrows is the fact that it is a hybrid arrow, but I can flex that arrow and hold that thing, and it's not going to take a set. I can flex it, but it's not going to bend.
So the SS series actually has stainless steel mesh integrated into the carbon fiber itself.
Yeah.
And it's not just a tube with carbon wrapped around it. It's actually in the material itself.
Impregnated with the carbon fiber, and hard impact on something where a normal hybrid arrow would, you know, the tip can bend or something like that. I mean, I beat these things down and shot them into steel walls, concrete walls, and they hold up. And the fact is, you have a hybrid arrow that's not gonna get destroyed every time you have a bad shot. Because let's be honest, not everybody shoots great all the time. I mean, I have bad shots quite often. So
well, and also certain types of target materials all around the world too. When you're talking, you know, over here, you might encounter Stramit target mats or Edgerton grass mats and stuff. Our hybrid arrows with stainless steel and carbon will take the durability test against anybody's AC aluminum carbon arrow.
yeah.
Have anyone here ever been to a tournament shooting Stramit butts where it's windy enough to have arrows actually break off when they hit the target in a crosswind? Yeah, that won't happen with these. So, and arrows are expensive. And you're talking about other aluminum carbon arrows. Could be maybe $500 a dozen or more. So yeah. Yes?
Well, they like to find it, like the metal detector.
Can you find it with a metal detector? I think you're in the wrong room. No, I'm just kidding.
I would say yes. I mean, there's enough.
You'll find the point. You'll find the point or the back end. But yeah, there's enough. You couldn't go through a metal detector with
In
one.
England, we shoot.
Yeah.
We shoot on the fields.
On the multi-use fields. Yeah.
Not to find the arrows.
Yeah.
So that's a basic let them carbon at the moment.
Yeah.
Is well, a lot of our fields will not let people shoot with just carbon.
Yeah.
Because they cannot find the arrows.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you figure
I've heard about that as well too, and
That's
it
a
is an issue. But
full
yeah.
length, and it's a full wrap of stainless mesh in there. I mean, that's enough that I imagine.
You'll find
that-
it.
Yeah.
And it's
a
not
metal detector would
insulated
pick
as much
that up.
as in a regular AC arrow that has a little tiny, 906 core tube in an X10 or a Pro Tour. It's a 964 6,000ths wall, and it's layered up in 60 thousandths of carbon. The carbon's a lot closer. The stainless is a lot closer to the outside of the arrow. They can be found. Yeah. Yeah.
You guys have any questions for us?
Could you walk through the process of selecting the arrows for target or field?
Okay. First and foremost, it would come down for me, what game am I going to play? 50 meter or like World Archery Field, IFA Field, what would be your game?
For me, mainly field or 3D.
Field in 3D. So the interesting thing about that question, field and 3D, I would almost, within the Victory line, just based on the weight of certain arrows, you could go with one particular shaft to shoot for field in 3D, which would be like the 3D HV, or you could go with two different shafts. Okay, and we all want to have just pretty much just one setup down the line. And the thing that bothers me slightly about that is my choice for a field arrow would be the VAP TKO, but it's going to be a little bit heavy for 3D because my VAP TKO build is a 28.5-inch shaft with a 120 grain point, and I think it weighs in right at about 405 grains full build. Now, the speed in feet per second was 60 pounds for me, even with my draw length at 31 off the bow I shoot, is only about 275 feet per second. Maybe a little slow for 3D for some people. So then I would probably look at like the 3D HV and shoot it for field and for 3D. It's a little bit bigger diameter, so you're gonna gain some wind drift just because of the mass, but you're gonna gain that velocity you're looking for 3D, and it's also gonna help substantially on unmarked field. And one thing that's kind of almost a little bit more of a benefit is on the bunny targets. 20 centimeter target face, 20 meters, 22 yards, you're shooting at a spot the size of your thumbnail. A little bit of diameter helps. Might not shoot many 6s, but it might help you from shooting a 4. You might catch a little more gold from time to time. So that would kind of be my option. If you have the choice of being able to select 2, 3D HV and VAP TKO. If it's only one shaft, 3D HV.
Yeah.
And then possibly this new shaft, depending on what the total weight is on the spine size you select. You know, yeah. Another selection too potentially is the conventional VAP.
Yeah.
We're still moving forward with the VAP.
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about the VAP, because the VAP was kind of the arrow that started.
Originally called, I mean, it was the first version was called a Nano, and it was the original micro diameter arrow. We had it before anybody else. We just didn't have the oomph behind us to make it happen. But that
the VAP's
arrow,
a little bit lighter.
it is. So it's about 1.2 grains per inch lighter than your TKO.
So that's
but
substantial. That could be as much as 30 grains.
Yeah.
And that's a big difference. That's 7 or 8 feet a second, which is important.
And 166 ID, so you're going to have less wind drift. And I mean, the fact that you've got 80, 100, 120, or 140 that you can put on the front of that thing as far as your target points. You could run a standard 166 diameter knock, or we've got a pin bushing. You can run a pin knock, and that way if somebody is trying to hammer your arrows, it's going to deflect, not going to damage your shaft. So you do have a pin bushing option there. And that is available from 200 spine all the way down to a 1200 spine. So
And
that's
if price
the
point is an
largest.
issue, the VAP is very reasonably priced across the range of products. So it's kind of an arrow that would fall between the VAP TKO and the 3D HV. A bit of a multi-use arrow. I myself prefer an arrow that's a little bit more specified for exactly what I'm trying to do, rather than trying to catch all with everything.
And all of our arrows, I mean, we spin all our arrows, and if price is a concern, I mean, take a look at the plus or minus 3000s, because a lot of the plus or minus 3000s, especially if you trim some off, those are going to fall into plus or minus 1000s category.
If you're willing to put the time in and work with them.
Yeah. It's
All of us are just going to buy the good ones. We're going to
it's-
buy the elites right out of the gate. Yeah.
peace of mind for me. I mean, I could shoot anything, and it's one of those, it's one of the least expensive components of your archery setup.
But it's
compared
the
to
most
a bow.
important. Yeah.
But for me, it's like, I can't shoot as good of, you know, the arrow's going to shoot better than I personally can shoot anyhow. So, yeah. Anything else?
So when I spoke to you yesterday, you said you had a new sort of H, like a TDX something?
The HLR?
Yeah.
That's this one right here.
You had the target out, you said, you put the VAP, and you said there's a new one you recommended better for the VAPs.
No, so the new arrow, like I said, is the HLR. We're working on some larger diameter stuff right now, but it's not quite there. And we are working on another small arrow, but it's not there yet. Yeah.
We've got some stuff in the works. Still
Yeah.
gathering data, doing a lot of testing, still making enhancements and whatnot, trying to get it perfect.
Trying
before
different
we release it.
fibers
Yeah.
and it's
And also
it's a
some
process.
potential innovation in some of our larger diameter shafts, like indoor shafts and 3D shafts on the horizon, some things we've been playing with and stuff. So
Yeah, that's actually really close.
And so what that illustrates is that Victory isn't just going to rest and say, we got a good arrow, now we're just going to go out there and market it and sell it. Now we're going to keep trying to innovate based on feedback from, shop owners, major business partners that we deal with, and with pro shooters and stuff. So
We're not just going to change graphics on something. we always want to try and make something better. So if we can, and we learn about new technologies all the time. I mean, every year they come and, you know, somebody's got a new this or a new that. Well, how can we incorporate that into an arrow? Is it possible to incorporate that into an arrow? And I mean, that's how the VAP SS came to be. It wasn't even in the archery industry. We looked at it and said, that might work. Let's try it. And it did. And started out as the extortion. It was actually a 204 diameter was the first stainless mesh that we did. And we were able to find a smaller stainless mesh, and that's how we were able to get into the VAP SS and RIP SS.
When you cut one of those arrows on a saw that has the stainless mesh in it, you look at it, you can barely see it. The diameter of the stainless wire or mesh in there is ultra small, like human hair diameter. Very small.
Yeah.
Very small, very consistent in its placement throughout the weave too. But.
And we take input from you guys too, so it's one of those, it's not just what we're beating our heads against the wall trying to figure out. If somebody calls up and says, hey, do you think this would work? We're open to trying, you know what I mean? We take input from anywhere if it's gonna work. You know, why would we, you know, push somebody off if they've got a good idea?
Nate, tell us a little bit about how long has Victory been in the archery space? Share that journey with us a little bit.
So, 13 years. I've been with the company going on 10 years. But yeah, they've been in the archery space for 13 years. Like I said, started out with the Nano and then the original V-Force, which are two arrows. You know, the Nano became the VAP. The V-Force is still the V-Force. And those are two arrows that we still carry. And it was originally privately owned company, picked up by Aldila and then eventually picked up by Mitsubishi. But and
when it was picked up with Mitsubishi, that's when the company really got a groundswell of resources.
Yeah.
Engineers, access to materials, access to funding that would allow them to prototype, build, and expand.
Yeah, it went from basically two arrows and a crossbow bolt to, you know, every year trying to look at 204 diameter arrows. Okay, let's put together a 204. All right, we need, you know, 23, 25, 27. Okay, so we've got target arrows. Now, we had okay target arrows, but how can we make those better? That's where the VTAC came in, putting the weave on that. And that's because of Mitsubishi and the access to the different fibers and the leadership that we had. Nobody was okay sitting on their laurels. Everybody wanted to try and make it the best arrow on the market, and, you know, putting arrows in the right people's hands and getting the input and working with the correct people. It's taken a long time to get to there, but I think that the patience has been paying off.
And access to a huge amount of resources, nearly unlimited resources.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
You tested the arrows as the string walk?
String walking?
Yeah. The spine alignment, does it mean anything that you string walk?
No, the arrow's still gonna come off the string the same way. I know, like Mike Santiago, he does a lot of string walking. And he doesn't modify his fletching, he doesn't change his knock indexing or anything like that. He sets them up, and then when he walks, he doesn't have any problems.
So, to be clear though, when Mike aligns his spine align, like I align mine straight up and down at like 12 o'clock.
Horizontal.
And Mike turns his, so he'd be rotating him 90 degrees for the spine align mark on there,
Yeah. But I mean, your cock vein would still be on your spinal alignment mark, and you just rotate the knob. Yeah, no, everybody that I talk to, I mean, I have trad bows, but I don't string walk or anything like that. But yeah, and everybody I've talked to says that the same thing. They don't have to change their setup for that.
I have a question for you though.
Okay.
When you string walk, do you notice a left and right impact difference with your current arrow shafts?
Yeah, today was
Today. I understand, yeah. But like, you know, when you go from like really like 5 meter bunny to like 45 meters. Because sometimes you have about 3 or 4 different crawls, but then you also have different points of aim.
For 50 meters, I can use one arrow. Go to 80 meters, I have to have a stiffer arrow.
Yeah.
The string walk.
Yeah, because of the string walk, because of the paradox, and it will affect your left and right. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But for
Okay.
for 5 to 30 meters.
Yeah. I know some of the guys on the U.S. field team, I've talked to them, and some of them say that, yeah, sometimes for really close targets and really long targets, they need to make a little bit of an adjustment, where they'll hold or click their button
Yeah,
a little bit, yeah.
I don't do that actually.
Oh.
I don't know why, but when I do target, I have to change something.
Yeah.
The arrows.
With target, though, it could be just the visual aspect of it. You know exactly where the center is. You know where you're looking. 3D, maybe not exactly precise as much where you're looking,
That
Yeah,
can be right.
yeah, it could be a little thing, yeah. I don't do any string walking, but I know enough to be dangerous. I can ask the right questions. Anyone have anything else? No?
How many of you guys here shoot Victory already? Nice.
How many of you shot at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock this morning when I did? Yeah. Does that mean we have to shoot early again tomorrow? Is it really? Shoot a 600, you don't get to sleep in?
No, sorry.
Well, there you go, guys. Don't aim any higher. You don't get to. It's no benefit from a 600.
What about maintenance on an arrow? Like over time, the coating goes away. Should we do anything about that?
So the coating, it doesn't really go away. So it's a nanoceramic coating that actually impregnates the carbon. So it does seep into the carbon. Now it might lose its luster,
Okay.
but for all intents and purposes, it is still there. And over time, I mean, thousands and thousands of shots, I mean, you'll start wearing the carbon out. And at that point, yeah, your coating's gone, but you're wearing, I mean, I've had guys that thousands and thousands, 4 years old, and it
I'm
tapers
shooting
to the point.
My arrows number 1, 2, and 3 are the same 3 arrows I've shot. This is the 3rd season now, and you can feel the difference, but they're still hitting the middle. No, it's like I can feel them. And I'm like, and I get a little superstitious, a little weird about it, because I'm like, gosh, man, arrows 4, 5, and 6. I'm like, gosh, these feel all smooth, and I'm like, well, geez, these ones have been shot. They got to be smaller diameter. Got to sit lower on the rest. Am I going to have a low arrow because of this? But when you're like, I don't think it's going to matter now. But yeah, no, I've definitely experienced that. But
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I will shoot annually a total of 150 to 175,000 shots. It's a lot of arrows.
A lot of arrows.
And they're still working. But yeah, in the past, though, shooting on certain type of target materials, very abrasive ones, yeah, I've definitely seen enough wear on my arrows that it's caused me to maybe, and I actually put them on the scale and see a difference sometimes. If you're shooting like Stramit or Edgerton or something like that, really abrasive materials. Yeah, they do have, and an arrow, it's a wear item. They're meant to be consumed, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, we stand behind our product 100%, but it gets to the point where it just normal wear and tear. But as far as maintenance goes, I mean, just making sure that
Make sure they're safe, flexible.
everything's safe
Yeah.
to shoot. I don't have any splinters, no cracking. I can't hear anything.
And that's with anybody's
check
carbon
the
shaft.
ends.
Yeah.
That's something you should do with. Doesn't matter whose arrow you're shooting.
And a real simple test you can do is just put it on your leg, just flex it and give it a roll. If that arrow's going to break, it's better it breaks here than on your bow.
Yeah.
And with a good quality carbon arrow, when you do that test, you shouldn't feel anything at all. Dead smooth. Some other all carbon shafts out there, you'll roll this and it'll go bump, 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 bump. Because the spine around the shaft isn't consistent.
Yeah.
There's an overly stiff or an overly weak spot there. And depending on where that spot is and how stiff or weak it is from one arrow to the next, will vary where it impacts compared to the other arrows. But simple test, just roll them, know if they're safe, good to go, but use arrow lube.
Yeah.
But like I said, mine are 3 years old. I probably should retire them, but superstitious, they work. I actually scraped them and refletched them, which a lot of times they'll tell me that's a no. Like, don't scrape them and refletch them. I'm like, but I want to put different fletchings on.
On a weave or our weave arrows, the easiest way to get veins off, just so you guys know, and I've done a couple videos.
Don't do
on
it the way I do it, which is
So I'll cut the vein off, but I'll leave the base on. So I'll just cut the majority of the vein off, pull the knock, and I'll just set it in acetone.
For how long?
30 minutes.
30 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So as long as the acetone doesn't run up into your graphics and ice coating, that acetone is not going to hurt that carbon at all. All right, it's not going to break down anything in the carbon. You leave it in there, and when you see the bases fall off, just pull it out, wipe it off, hit it with some Scotch-Brite, wipe it again, and then refletch. Put a new knock in, refletch. Let it gas off for sure, because if you try and fletch within 5 minutes after you pull acetone, you're gonna get the white ghosting lines from the glue.
I don't have that kind of time, Nate.
Well, just send me your stuff,
Man,
dude. I'll
if I-
take care of it for you, bro.
You all heard, if you love to fletch arrows,
I do.
don't bother sending them unfletched ever again.
All right. So yeah, no, all the samples and all that stuff, all the displays. If you guys ever go to an event and you see Victory displays, most of the time, all that stuff's arrows that I've built and fletched up personally, just because I build arrows.
Now, before somebody asks, I'll ask.
'Kay.
Because I know what I do, and I know what you're going to say. When installing components, what type of adhesive should you use and shouldn't you use?
Okay, so especially on our arrows, other arrows, they've got looser tolerance, but because of the tolerance that we keep between our component and the shaft, so the OD of your insert or target point to the ID of the shaft, we maintain a very tight tolerance. So hot melt and 2-part epoxy, you're not going to be able to get enough material between those 2 parts to create a strong bond. All right, so we have a glue that we call Black Fusion. It's a rubberized super glue. So it maintains an elasticity. It doesn't get hard to the point where it gets brittle and fractures and crystallizes. It's designed for high impact components. But that is the best thing to use for installing components in our arrows, just because we maintain such a high tolerance between the two.
When you use this, can you remove components and
You can.
install new ones, change point weights, things like that?
You can. Don't use a torch, use a heat gun. All right? He likes to go fast. All right.
I still use a torch and hot melt glue, but like I said, do as I say, not as I do. I've been doing this for a long time. I don't get things overly hot, but I use a very low temperature hot melt, nice and rubbery, soft and bendy.
Yeah.
But like I said, that's what I do. But I'm an expert.
Hot melt, you can also use boiled water.
Yeah, you could if you wanted to. I mean, I do my own stunts, so.
Yeah, with our Black Fusion, if you take a heat gun and heat up your component, you can still remove it, but without that, I mean, I've built thousands of arrows with inserts, and I've never had one pull out. Now I talk to people that I keep having inserts come out in my target. Well, how'd you put your inserts in? Well, I used hot melt, or I used 2-part. I had this Easton epoxy. Yeah, don't use that. It doesn't work on our stuff.
I think the biggest issue for a field and target shooter is back-end components, having to put new pins in.
Yeah.
I mean, a good day at the range is when you come in and you got to put 8 or 9 pins in. It was a good day, So that's the biggest thing, is being able to use a certain type of adhesive that'll allow you to change those out fairly rapidly, and God forbid do it in the field. So
I know a lot of guys
pulling a generator
yeah.
and a heat gun that you plug into 220 is
Yeah.
really not the best option.
Yeah.
So
well, I mean, that's
Yeah.
front end, use the rubberized. Back end, I mean, I know some guys still using bagging them, the plastic bag.
I don't like that.
Or
Yeah.
dental floss, but for me, it can shift on you.
Yeah, I don't
not
like
paying
stuffing
attention.
anything in there that's going to do a tolerance.
But yeah, no, just a little dab, and then, I mean, if you are going to use a torch, don't leave it on there very long.
if you
all I gotta say.
basically, what I will do is I'll hold the component in my fingers, and if it gets too hot to hold on to, it's too hot for the arrow. So heat the glue, a little bit of heat on the component, glue on the component, enough to soften it, turn it in, wipe it off. If it gets too hot to touch with your fingers, that's above 140 degrees, it's too hot for the carbon.
And then you'll see it spool out.
Yeah, you'll just come apart. So
Yeah.
I think every one of us in here that's ever built arrows has overcooked a carbon arrow at one time or another, trying to get a point out.
Yeah.
You're like, I want this point. I know the arrow's broken, but I still want the point. I want to put it in the rest of my arrows. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Well, thank you very much, guys. We really appreciate your
appreciate the
time,
time.
allowing us to share some of our knowledge with you. But if anything else comes up throughout the weekend, feel free to stop at the Victory booth or grab me wherever I am. And hope you guys enjoy the rest of the tournament. So thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.